Hello, I'm just up at the Balgae Hill and I'm going to go for just a wee walk around where the bridge is and also up to the Mills Observatory. Now, I find it quite bizarre because there's a lot of trees that have been blown over, and it was due to that storm that we had back in December here in Scotland, Dundee. We had we had strong winds, but this is the bit that I find pretty bizarre. Yeah, sure, we had strong winds, but I've had strong winds before in the 80s, in the 90s, the 2000s, you know, up until within the last few years, right? Now, we've had these strong gale force winds before, and yeah, sure, we've had some damage, right? But this storm that we had back in December, right, December last year, 2021, it was early December or late November, early December, thereabouts, and it was just a couple of months ago, and it was the amount of damage was just ridiculous. It was the amount, I've never seen so many trees blown over. Or a tree over, it fell on a bus shelter, for roofs off at buildings, fences over, just carnage, you know. Now, as I say, they reckoned it was quite a strong storm, but yeah, it was strong. But as I said, we've had storms like this before. I remember we've had winds. It didn't feel like a storm that we haven't had before, and yet there's all this damage on this particular one. It's just ridiculous. I mean, these trees, some of the trees that have blown over were kind of like sheltered from other trees. So why the trees blew over and the rest didn't? You know, there's instances of that as well around about the city and around about the country, the areas I've been to anyway. So, but this was just a ridiculous amount of damage. It's just, I find it really bizarre that, you know, that there was so much damage done on this storm for some reason. You might just make up the bridge behind me. That's the Balgae Bridge, by the way. I'm going to be walking across that to get up to the Mills Observatory, because there's trees that are blown over. I've never seen it like this before. Anyway, I'm going to show you that. Show you the carnage of the trees anyway. At least here in Balgae Hill. Okay. Right, so I'm out the car and just making my way along. Now already, I mean, the amount of trees that's crazy. I mean, I'm not saying that trees don't blow over in strong winds, but in 46, and I've never known so many trees to be blown over in one storm before. Like storms I remember clearly having before, way back in the 80s. And I used to like the strong winds when I was a kid. Still do in a way, but I don't like the damage it causes. But yeah, I mean, I remember winds and really, really strong winds. And this storm that we had just a couple of months ago, I didn't feel any stronger than anything that we haven't had before. And yet there's all this carnage. Anyway, I'm going to make my way up to that. I think I might take a shortcut and I'll show you. Okay. So that's the Balgae Bridge. I'm going to head up. So I'm just going to take up a shortcut. But like I say, already there's just some carnage, and there's branches there. There's even roads closed. I've never known it to be. There's a tree down up there as well. I'll show you that. Oh, it's a bit muddy here, but I always get muddy. That's what I'm like now. There's literally, I've lost count. I could be spending a week just going around Dundee showing you the number of trees that have come down. There's just so many. Okay, maybe exaggerated, but there's a heck of a lot of trees. It wouldn't take us a week to go around them, but it would take me quite a while just to cover them all, and that's just randomly spotted. Look. Now I'll make my way up to the bridge and I'll show you some of the stuff, the damage. I'll just heading up. yeah, I'm not going to film all the damage, just trees and number of trees that have came over down in Dundee. It'll take me ages, and just covering the ones here, or just some of the ones here in Balgae Hill. There's some more. And this is the Balgae Bridge. Leads from the Balgae Hill Cemetery to Balgae Hill, where the Mills Observatory is. I actually done a video article about the, I've done a short article about the Balgae Bridge on my YouTube channel. If you want to have a look at that, it's up to you. I've also done a few ghost walks. I've walked across there alone at night, after midnight, a couple of times as well, if you want to see that. It's also on my channel. So I'll make my way up one of these. It doesn't matter, I could go either, or I could go up that way to get up to the observatory. Or I could go up that way, because it all meets up at the top anyway, so we'll make my way up there. A wee bit of a view of the bridge behind me. So maybe we're up the hill. So that's Mills Observatory. So I'm not very sure if they're open or not. There's people in it, but I don't think they're open to the public because of the road. I mean, it's blocked off with that tree that I'm going to show you. I get the feeling that they're closed. I could double check, but I'm pretty sure they are. I didn't see any cars around. I don't think they could get up. I mean, whoever got in there would have obviously parked so far and walked the rest. I've tried the door, but it's locked. But saying that, I mean, it's only just going, it's about 5 to 4, and I think they're open from 4 till 10, so I'll find out for sure though if we're going to be open. We'll come back and try again later, although the traffic won't get up the usual road. I don't think there's any other ways up by car anyway, but I'm going to make my way down and show you the trees that have come down. There's just some more trees that have been damaged. Now it's possible that they could maybe get up by car from the other road that's they've maybe opened the bollard to allow staff and visitors in, but I'm not very sure if that's the case or not. I mean, that's for getting on for 4 and there doesn't seem to be any signs of it opening up. So I think this could be the cause. That, I mean, the other road, I'm not quite sure just what the story is with that. Yeah. But this is unbelievable. I've never known to see this mold damage before, due to a storm that we've that isn't any stronger than what we've already had, as far as I'm concerned, because I've lived here, I've lived in Dundee all my life, and I remember the storms that we used to have, going way back, and that storm that we just had a couple of months ago isn't any, it was strong, don't get me wrong, but I've never seen so much damage in my life damage done to Dundee City due to a storm, a windy. It was only just for one night as well. It's just, I mean, these trees, okay, they're fairly high up on a hilltop, but there are other trees surrounding them. But that's not the case in all the cases. I've seen trees that are in other places around about Dundee where the trees have been sheltered with other trees, and yet somehow they were the ones that were blown over and the others weren't. So it might be that other road, they don't want to have traffic meeting because it's quite a narrow road, so they've kind of closed it. I don't really know for sure what the story is with the other road. I haven't been over yet, but and I've also logged in before that, even on another note, that the trees have differed to how I've remembered them before. I mean, within the latest years, within recent years, 3 or 4 years now. I don't really want to open up, I don't want to go into a big subject here, but now that I've mentioned it, give me a minute. I don't want to. If you've never heard of the Mandela Effect, then as I say every time, if you're interested, do your own research into the phenomena and come to your own conclusions. No, I'll just sort of leave it at that. Just go online and type in the Mandela Effect. I'm not going to explain it just now. I just not really got the time to do that. But it's easier if you just go online and type it in. Then you'll know what I'm talking about. Because that's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to what's online. It's been referred to as a phenomenon called the Mandela Effect phenomenon. So it's basically, I mean, I remember going back years before recent years, if you went back decades even, right? It was a lot younger, but I wasn't into trees. I don't really know all the different types of trees and all the rest of it, but they were every day, you see them every day. Now, the actual trees have changed. Like that one there, for example, for me a tree was always a big root, or a big trunk that grew up and branches grew out the way at the sides. I know you want to go on about it, but I was really just want to show you about the damage of the trees. But basically, it's not how I remember trees. I've always remembered them differently. I don't ever remember trees having multiple roots like that, so low at the ground. They were more like the conventional tree, just one big trunk, branches came out and they went up, they grew intentionally up the way, and then it would maybe split off further up. But now we've got trees that are sort of multiple chunks growing down at root level, ground level. Just totally bizarre to me, like, you know. And possibly, I mean, I don't know exactly I don't know what's causing it as such, but I do know that I remember differently, and it's not what a lot of people have said to me, that it's just false memory. I don't believe that. I don't feel that's right, because I know what I remember, and I know what I have never seen before, and until recently I've never saw trees grown in manners, not just here but all around the country, and I've even seen it on TV. Saying that you saw something on telly is one thing, but okay, I've seen it on programmes on telly, but that's another thing. I mean, if you see anything from television, it's second-hand information. Even my video is second-hand information. That is this. You're not looking at reality, like, you're just looking at the information that's been recorded, decoded and playing back on your screen, and it's your brain that sees the image, that puts the idea into your head that what you're seeing is like trees and the scenery. That what you're seeing is just light and sound from a screen. That's not the real, that's not first-hand information, if you like, on that level of reality. I mean, television just, it's almost, well it is, it's hypnotic in a way because it's suggestive. If you see a picture of like a red car, what you're seeing is an image that your brain suggests there's a red car, but it's from it's a second-hand information. It's not like you're seeing it as reality. You're only seeing a recorded version, and it's your brain that makes the idea that you're a red object, that you just jump to the conclusion that it's a red car, you know. Anyway, it's, I just go on, but I am interested in that subject now. Not to the, I don't think that observatory is open. It should, at this time of year, from October to March, which is obviously the winter half, the observatory's meant to be open from 4 till 10, because it'll be dark and you get to see the skylights, you know, the stars. You know. There's some more stuff here anyway. I've done it then, I'll show you. So, I mean, there's a lot of damage over there. There's more damage over here. I mean, there's just tons of it everywhere. There's carnage. There's even a road closed on the bus route that I drive, and that was just absolute chaos. And yet, as I said, that storm, fair enough, it was strong, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't any stronger than what we've already had before, because I've been around for a while and I remember storms and strong winds, and I don't ever remember seeing anything like as much damage as what's been caused by this one. And this is only just showing you here at Balgae Hill. There's damage all around the city and even around the country, the surrounding areas around Dundee, or certainly the areas that I've been to anyway. I've witnessed firsthand, you know, the carnage left. Here's an example of the trees. It's bizarre to me because not only do you get all these multiple roots growing from the ground, it used to be that conventional tree, that's more like how I remember trees. A one branch, trunk rather, branches intensely grown out, and then you had, you know, the roots sort of there. Then it would split at the top. I'm no tree expert, but I do know what I remember and what I don't remember. And also, you get trees that are growing at really bizarre angles. Now, I've done videos on this before on my channel. I don't really want to go into it on this one too much. But yeah, I mean, this is just up here. There's damage further down as well. It's all over the place. Just trees that have been, I mean, there's rooftop, there's the Charlie Bar pub along the road just on Charleston Drive, that's got its roof ripped off. There was a bus shelter demolished with a tree that came down at Hawk Hill. I mean, there's more trees down there that are all damaged. There's trees away down there that's been blown over. That was just like one or 2 days. So it was strongest on one of the days anyway. And like I say, I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, right? I remember as far back, there was strong winds and I was able to lean against the wind. The wind was that strong, I was actually able to lean forward against it, right? Okay, it was a wee bit lighter back then, but I was still pretty, it was still quite big for my age, so I wasn't a really light, but and that's going back then, and I was able to do that back then, lean against the wind. I don't know about now, probably, but, and the winds were really strong, and there was nothing like as much damage as this. Nothing like it. All over the city. I mean, I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't. Even the tree at my backs, at the back is the building, the block of flats that I stay in, even that's blown over. And that tree's been there for years, and it's put up with strong winds before. Not any. I mean, they say that storm wasn't any stronger than what that tree's put up with before, and yet this time it's well over. It's just gone. So I'll show you that anyway. Yeah, so just showing you. I mean, I could be here for ages showing you. I'm just pointing out the ones that I find just unbelievable. But another thing as well, going back to the 80s, still am a bus spotter. I was a bus spotter back then, and I went round on the double-decker buses, and there was days where the wind were really, really strong. You know, I was quite young, and I thought, well, this will be, you know, going upstairs. Oh, I was, you know, I would sit on the bus and it would be like this, blowing about all over the place, you know, side to side in the strong winds. You know, I remember them. I mean, I liked the strong winds when I was a kid. I still do, especially when I was at primary. I used to, at the school, you know, I always liked. So I remember strong winds and strong weather, stormy weather, for many years, decades. And I've lived in Dundee all my life, and I know that we've had weather like what we had a couple of months back, and nothing like this in water damage. Nothing like it. I just find that absolutely bizarre. For me anyway, otherwise I wouldn't be logging it in. I'm going to make my way up to the Mills Observatory. It doesn't look like it is opened, so if it's probably due to this road being totally blocked, as you can see, and the other road that leads up to it, I think they don't want to have traffic coming up and down it, you know, two-way traffic on a very narrow kind of pathway up. It's a very narrow road up to it, so that could be the reason why they haven't opened it. There's obviously an indirect result of this. So that's a bizarre tree down there as well. I mean, don't get me started. I'll show you what I find to be bizarre anyway. So, see this. It's quite nuts. It's just totally. That's just one example. I've got loads of them. I've been on about this for ages. Well, when I say ages, I mean recent years, if you know what I mean. It's only been in recent years that I've noticed this strange phenomena. Well, that's just like another example. I mean, I used to muck around here when I was a kid. Me and my mates and that, we used to play hide and seek. We used to climb the trees, we used to climb buildings and everything. We used to run around and, you know, we used to cycle around. I've been here many times. And things like this, trees like this, I would have noticed. I would have remembered them. I would have remembered if they'd been around at the time when I was younger. I would have. Today I wouldn't be thinking they were strange, because it would be normal. So why now? When I say now, I mean within recent years. I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, right? Why would I now be suddenly noticing all these bizarre trees if they were like that? That tree's obviously been there for years. It's been quite an old tree. You can tell by the number of rings on it how old the tree is. But that's just one example. So why would I now be noticing, you know, trees like such if they'd been around? This, as I say, this is just one from. There's lots of bizarre trees all over the place now. So I better make my way back up. Okay, I mean, we used to come here in the 80s and in the late nights. Well, fairly late. It was dark. We used to do ghost hunting, and yeah, we used to muck around like that. And I was always I was a lot fitter back then. Like, I always wanted to muck around outside and play about outside. So I was obviously, I would have seen lots of trees around. I'm no expert on trees, by the way. I don't study them or anything like that. But what I'm trying to say is that I've seen them daily. They're around every day. I've been here for, you know, years. I would obviously have clocked that. No, there's somebody up there. Door's open. I don't know if that's actually open to the public or if he's maybe just security. I'm going to ask and just see what's happening. Although I have my doubts that it'll be open. But I knew there was somebody in there. He's maybe there just to keep things ticking over until they get the road cleared. Perhaps I'll go and ask, find out what's happening regarding the Mills Observatory. Right. I just spoke to them there, and the Mills Observatory is actually open. So it is indeed, the road is blocked. The other road has got the bollards on it, and it's not, you can't drive up. But what you can do, and what the staff have done, is park just where that red car was and just walked up. It's about a 5-minute walk, but doing that in the pitch dark. I would. You probably know I've done ghost walks up here. But yeah, so the Mills Observatory is open. But it's not the best at night because it's, as I say, it's overcast, unfortunately. Yesterday was a brilliant night. It was clear, moon was out, beautiful night, but I couldn't make it yesterday. I can only really get to these places when I've got the time. But yeah, so I'm just making my way back down to the bridge and then back to where I'm parked. But another thing I was going to mention while I'm out here and talking about stuff that's bizarre in my opinion. No, it might not be bizarre for all. Some people might just think it's perfectly normal. A lot of people will know, just say that it's normal and just misremembering it or something. Fair enough, they could think that way, but I know what I remember and what I don't remember. But it's, anyway, the light level. It's 18th of January today. Now earlier on today in the late morning it was similar sort of overcastness. Now it's not really low cloud as such. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, sorry, excuse me, I had to stop for a moment there. What was I saying? Yeah, the light levels for the time of day is too dull. Given the cloud level and the light level, in my opinion, it was way too dull. Way too dull. So, give me 1 second. Yeah, it was like within recent years, when it's been sort of similar cloud level, or sometimes it could be at the same time of day, or even earlier in the year, in fact, even nearer the shortest day of the year, which is the 21st of December, the winter solstice. Now, days close to that, right? It's been later on in the day, and it could be even cloudier than what it is today, right? And I've seen it light year. Now, I know you can only really take my word on that because that's just how I remember it. I'm only telling you what I remember. Now, I've seen that quite a lot lately. The light levels are just fluctuating too much. It could be like really dull in the late morning, early afternoon, and then the cloud level could remain the same, and as the day gets on it gets sometimes brighter, and as I said, the cloud level remains the same. So, and as it gets later on in the day at this time of year, it normally gets darker, or it should in theory get darker. That's what it used to, but sometimes it's got lighter, and then it will stay that light level for quite a while, and then eventually it'll start to get darker. But today's a prime example because it's really, earlier on I had to put the lights on in my car, I had to put lights on in the house because it's been that dark, and that's in the late morning. So, and for, as I say, this time of year it's getting nearer, it's getting further away from the shortest day of the year, so it should be getting lighter, but for that time of the morning, but it was actually getting darker. Give us a second. So I'm just about ready to go over the Balgae Bridge again. Yeah. But yeah, that's just another thing I find pretty bizarre. Otherwise it wouldn't be. All right, now there's a nice view of the River Tay. I'll show you that while on here. Well, okay, maybe not the nicest view, but you can see the Tay anyway. I mean, I could see it quite clearly. Maybe it didn't come out too well in the phone, unfortunately, but yeah, that's maybe not that clear. I've seen it, but I'll try to show you it. Yeah, nice view anyway if you're at this area. If you're from the local Dundee area and you want to visit the Balgae Bridge, I would recommend it because it's quite a lovely walk. A lot of nature trails round about here. Yeah, really nice. A breath of fresh air. So, but anyway, there's another tree that's down up there as well. You might not see that. It's getting a bit darker now. Okay, I could understand at this time of the day. It's like 4:30, but it's still quite a white sky. I mean, there's even times going back to it was 2017, winter 2017, that I remember once. I mean, I drive the buses and I was working. I was driving the bus, and it was about the back of 5, and it was only just a few days after the shortest day of that year, the winter solstice of 2017. Right, so this is here in Scotland. Right, it's not way up the North Pole or anything like that, and it was quite lighty. It was far too. I mean, it wasn't lighty, but it was a blue kind of sky. It wasn't. It was a bit like the colour of dark blue. It's on my jacket, like that. It was dusk, right? It was dusk. Now, that was only just a couple of days after the shortest day of the year, and this was after 5 o'clock in the evening. Now, it shouldn't have been as light. No, it wasn't anything to do with the moon or anything, right? Although that's another subject. I'm not going to go into that too much, but it was just almost like the sun was still kind of too in the air, you know, too close, because it used to be, for me anyway, prior to that, it was always pitch dark, you know, totally black, pitch dark, by around about the back of 4, right? So I don't know how that could happen. I mean, if they're saying the Earth orbits and, you know, same rate and everything and all that sort of stuff, how does that happen then? I don't know. But there's some more damage as well. That was, I showed you that earlier anyway, just going to walk down this way. See all this littered away damaged trees and branches, all this pathway. It's like, you know, it's just overwhelming the amount of damage it's caused over about 1 or 2 days of strong winds that we've had before. Because I remember, like I said earlier, I remember when I was young, I was able to lean against the wind. That's how strong it was, right? And I wasn't light either. I was, you know, able to do that. And that's going back to the 80s, and yet there was nothing like as much damage as that. And also, when I went round on the buses, the double-deckers, used to go around on bus trips. I was a bus enthusiast, but I still am. Right? The double-decker, it would be blown around all over the place. Like, you know, sideways. The winds were really, really strong. Right? But there was nothing like this. Okay, you did get occasional roofs that were damaged and the occasional tree that blew over, but this is just madness. I mean, this is the amount of trees in this park alone is probably the amount of damage it was causing, you know, in all the time I've been alive due to strong winds in Dundee. It's just nuts. But I just can't emphasise just how it is, because I remember what it was like in the 80s. I liked the strong winds. I mean, I paid attention. A lot of people, when I mention stuff like what I regard as bizarre, I think that misremembering or something like that, you know. And not, I mean, I can only tell you that as strong as I could tell you. It's up to you whether you believe me, because you've got nothing to go on. Like I said earlier about reality, and you're just watching my video, which is just light and sound. That's all it is. You're just getting the light and sound, and it's the brain that does the rest, because you're seeing an image on the screen. As you know, it could be so many hertz or something. There's all sorts of technical stuff. I mean, there's flashing images at frequency, but it's the brain that's entrained to see an image. That's how television and monitors work. It's like a frequency, it flashes off. It's like a series of still photographs, but they're going at a very fast rate, and it's the brain that puts the motion to it. I'm not going to go on about it too much, but it's not like reality as such. It's almost hypnotic. It's like when you've got also, you know, between the lines and between the lines, basically, you could add all sorts of other things as well. It's hypnotic. It was called, they called it subliminal messaging, but you know, when they say they release stuff like that, declassify stuff like that, you know, it's up to you whether you believe it. I'm not saying for 1 minute that that's not what they did. I'm just saying that what they may have done or what's happening, I don't think we're ever going to get told. Oh yeah, that's maybe an aspect of the story, but there'll be a lot more that they probably haven't mentioned. Why they invent televisions and what they do with them and what their real purpose is. You know, I mean, they sell us the idea, but there's probably other reasons that, unbeknown to us, the real reasons. You know. But anyway, I'm just kind of going on a wee bit. I know, you know me. Have you seen what I'm like in my stuff? The other stuff that I put up that I find bizarre. I'm fascinated in it, and I'm interested in it, and I will have an open mind to it, and I'm not just going to dismiss it as you know, fantasy. That's what I mean when I say, you know, what I like, because I don't like to just simply like dismiss it. I like to learn about all these things, just like talking about with the trees. I've never saw so much damage before in my life due to 1 or 2 days of strong wind. But anyway, it's maybe going off at a tangent. But these things are interesting, you know, regarding all the things that were maybe what might be regarded as sci-fi and all the rest of it. I don't know. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I've always been into sci-fi and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean I'm biased. That doesn't mean that I'm just looking for answers, or doesn't mean I'm just going to jump to conclusions. If there's a logical explanation for all these trees that have been damaged due to only a couple of days of strong winds, that, as far as I'm concerned, it's winds that we've had before in Dundee, right? How come there's just so much damage? And as I say, this is only here at Balgae Park. Right, there's damage all over Dundee. There's a lot of damage just in this park alone. It's probably equates to the amount of damage I've ever known to be done in my life due to trees being blown over in winds. Just here, there's that many. It's ridiculous. It's just 2 days strong winds. You know. Get myself back in the car. It's getting a bit darker now. But yeah, well, that day of the storms, I was working. I drove the buses just a couple of months ago in that strong wind. And yeah, it blew the bus around. Now, I've been a driver for years, bus driver for years, and I've driven the bus in strong winds. It was a double decker. I've driven the bus in strong winds before. Just like what we had a couple of months back. So I see a lot of Dundee on the bus route and that. And give us a second. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I see a lot of Dundee. I drive the buses. I've been on the buses for decades, and I've seen Dundee. I've seen days where it's been very strong winds and that. I've seen the amount of damage it's been caused in the last days. I'm not going to, as I say, go around in the car and film all the damage that I've saw in that, because I'd be there for ages. There's that much. I just showed you a sample, and that's just here. And I could probably safely say that the amount of damage in here alone is probably the amount in total that I've known have been caused by strong winds prior to this. You know. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I was going on a bit like all these top secret stuff, the declassified stuff, and Area 51. I mean, honestly, really, if you wanted to keep a top secret, right, you're not going to say where it is. Area 51 is probably more known than some other things that are supposed to be well known. Everybody has heard, well, okay, I can't say everybody, but it's well known. If you had a real secret, right, top secret, or technology or anything like that that you were using, you're not going to declassify it. You will never heard of it. It'll be out in plain insight. It'll be there in front of you. You just won't be able to decode it. That's the best kept secrets. You're not going to understand it, because if you say that if you've got a box, right, and let's say there's the secret's in that box, right, you're going to be very interested in that box. So there'll be a lot of interest generated because of that. So you're not going to have a lot of interest generated because people will be looking at that, wanting to know what's in it. So that's where all the tension's going to be. And you're going to keep a secret there. No. If you're going to keep a top secret stuff, you'll keep it somewhere where it would be probably in plain insight. You just wouldn't be able to recognise it. And that would be the ones. You won't understand it until you're ready, until you're meant to, because there's obviously a bigger picture going on here. You get parts of pictures. I mean, I'm not saying, I've never been to Area 51 and not saying that it's anything, like, not making any opinion on it by saying, I'm not saying, I don't know, but I feel that I was interested in Area 51 stuff going back for as long as, until I started thinking about it more recently. Right, I started thinking, well, a lot of people have heard about Area 51. Why would they have a secret, top secret stuff kept there? Because everybody knows about Area 51. I mean, if you wanted to keep a secret, you'd have it where nobody would ever have even heard of it. So like I was saying about television, subliminal messaging and all the rest of it, right, as science, if you go on that level of physics and science, it's the screen, it's the old CRT screens anyway, of so many lines per second, that's hertz. And obviously the brain, the subconsciousness picks up all of it. The consciousness will only pick up so much of it, right? That's what you're seeing, what you recognise, like the car and all that, the subconscious. What you're seeing, you think now, or you may think or see, well, we're sitting in a car, right, my car, but the subconscious will pick up every single thing that your eyes and ears and everything else, your senses have picked up on, like all the different, every single movement, every single thing basically that you've looked at that you might not consciously think of, but you'll your brain will store it in anyway, and that's the subconscious. The subliminal messaging is worked on the subconscious, but why I go on to that subject? I mean, okay, fair enough. When I go out to places like this and just enjoy the fresh air and chill, I think of all that stuff. But I was mainly wanting to show you these trees anyway, here at Balgae Cemetery. And it's just a small example of what damage has been caused by the storm. Anyway, went out for a walk, went out for a blather with you, got a bit of exercise. The Mills Observatory is open at time of videoing, which is 18th of January 2022. But depending on when I put that up, don't be put off by it, because if I put this up, and it might be closed by that time for the season, depends on when I put the video up. But it's open anyway. It's worth going up because they've got the big ancient telescope that's built there way back in the 18th century. But there's a lot of modern telescopes there as well that are much smaller but more powerful. The big dome at the top, that was it's made of paper mache. It runs on rails. They just move. It's a gear, you see. It's geared, so you turn the gear and it moves around very slowly. There's a lot of turning, but it's very, very slowly moves around. It's geared, so being paper mache would be quite light as well. And that's another point, right? That's Right, these trees that I showed you, these are really, they were sturdy, right? Big, heavy, sturdy, well-grown, mature trees, right? And they were blown over. Now the Mills Observatory, the dome at the top is made out of paper mache, and that survived. So, give us a second. Yeah, so that survived. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of things that have been damaged in this last couple of days, right, that shouldn't, in my opinion, be damaged, because the things next to it that are much lighter, smaller, and more exposed to the wind are still standing, haven't been affected by it, like these big heavyweight trees. And there's trees that are surrounded by other trees that have been blown over, but the trees that have took the brunt of the wind, some of them are smaller, and yet they're still standing unscathed. So yeah, hang on a second. Sorry that. Yeah. Well, you see, what goes through my mind when I thinking about these trees, individual trees that are damaged and others isn't, and certain structures are damaged and others are untouched. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like they've been selected somehow to be damaged. It's like that. I'm not saying for 1 minute that that's what's happening. I don't know what's happening. That's why I've put it here a bit. I'm just interested to know what's going on. But it's like that they've been almost targeted. I mean, why would individual trees be blown over completely? Big heavyweight trees, right, be blown over, right, and other trees that are just on the outsides taking the brunt of it are still standing. Yeah. That's just, as I say, one example. There's many more. I've not really got the time. I'm just gonna go on about it now. But anyway, that's what it was. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, right, I'm up the road, get my tea. If you've survived this long, then well done. At least you saw a wee bit of Balgae anyway. You saw the Balgae Bridge. You saw the Mills Observatory. And I've just told you a wee bit how I feel about it anyway. What's going on. Right, I'll better go. Catch you later. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye now.